Welcome to Literary Journeys with River. Today, we're diving into A Light in the Flame, a continuation where power, sacrifice, and love collide in even more dangerous ways. Remember, this is just a summary, not the full book. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, comment where you're watching from. It really helps the channel grow and reach more readers. Get ready for a story where every choice has consequences that could reshape the fate of gods and mortals alike. Let's get started. Chapter 1. The Awakening of the Primogenia of Life. Seraphena faces the shocking revelation that she is the primogenia of life, bearer of the true embers, making her the most powerful figure in all the worlds. Nyktos, who had been her target, kneels before her as a sign of respect, unleashing a whirlwind of emotions. Holland and Penelope explain that Seraphena's soul has been reborn many times, being the latest incarnation of Sotoria, the great love of Kolis, the primogenius of death. This truth connects her to ancient prophecies and puts her in Kolis's crosshairs, who has already sent creatures to spy on her. Nyktos reveals that he cannot love, for he sacrificed his cardia, the part of the soul that would allow him to. With the world's balance hanging by a thread, Seraphena understands that her destiny is not just to survive the sacrifice, but to protect everyone with a power she is only beginning to understand. Chapter 2. Victor's Spell and the Queen's Decision. Seraphena absorbs that Nyktos has renounced love and that his heart is incapable of feeling it. Despite the pain, she understands the logic behind that decision. Holland confirms that the mortal world has only 1 or 2 years before falling under the effects of the rot. The news that her half-sister Ezra has married Marisol and taken the throne of Lysania comforts her, but Seraphena knows she must do more. Penelope summons the original Victor Ward, who inscribes a protective spell on Seraphena's skin that will prevent her from being kidnapped. During the ritual, she discovers that Victor has lived and remembered all his lives, a reflection of what she herself has experienced as a reborn soul. Although the spell protects her physically, Seraphena still feels vulnerable. Holland reminds her that not everything is written, and even destiny can change if her heart does too. Chapter 3. Fire in the Red Forest and the Burning Dagger. Seraphena and Nyktos argue about the coronation, the value of life, and the risks they both face. He claims that protecting her is worth more than the Umberlands. Despite rejecting being considered merely a vessel of the embers, Sera understands that Kolis's attacks will continue. At night, an explosion interrupts their rest. Enemy Drakens attack the Red Forest, attempting to free the buried gods. Sera refuses to stand aside and, along with Orphine, defies orders to help. Chaos reigns outside the palace. Fire ravages the trees and the ground trembles with every charge. Despite the danger, Sera, barefoot and determined, runs toward the conflict. She recognizes that, even if she is not yet a consort, she is a living threat to everyone, even to Nyktos. As the skies burn, her determination does as well. She knows that her existence has a price, and she is ready to pay it. Chapter 4. The Assault of the Fallen Gods and the Fall of Davina. Sera's embers awaken when a brutal battle erupts in the courtyard. Drakens and gods face a horde of fallen gods who break through the shattered gates. Amid the chaos, Orphine fights in her Draken form and Nyktos flies toward the Red Forest, while Draken blood burns allies and enemies alike. Sera fights with sword and dagger, but it is Davina's loss that tears her apart inside. Ector stops her before using his embers to resurrect her. The arrival of Nyktos, in his primogenius form, changes the course. His power annihilates the fallen with essence of either. Wounded, Sera is carried in his arms to a chamber where, in an intimate moment, Nyktos offers his blood to heal her. The tension and desire between them culminate in an intense physical connection. as she discovers the transformative and intoxicating power of her bond with the Primogenius of Death. Chapter 5. Secrets, Suspicions, and Seraphena's Escape. As dawn approaches, Sera joins a tense meeting in the war room. They debate who could have led the attack with Drakens and fallen gods. They suspect a Primogenius, perhaps Hanan, although the god who attacked her knew her appearance, indicating a close betrayal. The room fills with tension when it is revealed that Sera nearly died, and Nyktos reacts with restrained fury. Sera reflects on her growing connection with him and the sacrifice that awaits her. Later, Ios hints that Sera's drive to save lives is not a choice, but part of her nature as bearer of the ember. With her heart heavy, Sera understands that her destiny endangers those she loves. She decides to escape and slips down the castle walls, crossing the red forest toward Lethe, determined to fulfill her purpose. To reach Dalos, find Kolis and confront him. Chapter 6. Darkness, Embers, and Nyktos' Fury. Seraphena flees determined to kill Kolis, crossing the dead forest, plagued with dead trees and lost souls called darknesses. Luck seems to be on her side until she is attacked by these shadows, whose claws and ethereal bodies defy logic. A silver hawk protects her, and Sera, guided by instinct, fights with a dagger until she releases a burst of ether that not only destroys the creatures, but reanimates one's body, granting it a beating heart. Nyktos appears furious, catches her after a chase, and demands explanations. She confesses her plan to reach Dalos and kill Kolis. The argument escalates into a physical and emotional confrontation, where Sera's internal energy erupts against Nyktos, pushing him with a primogenial discharge. Between rage, power, and desperation, she begs him to understand her purpose, while he reveals that his greatest fear is losing her, not because of Kolis, but because of her sacrifice. Chapter 7. The Sealed Promise Between Shadows and Embers. After the ether explosion, Nyktos is left wounded. Nyktos descends in Draken form to protect Sera from a dangerous backlash. Their fear transforms into awe when she reveals that her power momentarily returned life to a darkness, which Nyktos confirms as a unique ability of Ithos, Nyktos' father. Despite the tension, Nyktos does not punish Sera. Instead, he forces her to sleep under his watch. They share an intimate moment in their bedroom, between gentle gestures, loaded silences, and implicit confessions. Sera resists yielding, but ends up sleeping beside him, exhausted. Later, she wakes feeling Nyktos' body tense and his breathing agitated. In the midst of the silence, he begs her with a broken voice to promise not to go after Kolis again. She, dominated by pain and tenderness, utters words she never believed she would say. She promises that she will never try again. Chapter 8. Nyktos' Promise and the Proclamation of the Consort. Sera wakes alone, tormented by the promise she made to Nyktos not to seek Kolis. The dagger by her pillow and the robe he left behind show his silent care. Although she still plans to escape, she knows that now is not the time. She prepares and is escorted by Orphine to a throne room crowded with guards and gods. Confused, she discovers that Nyktos has gathered his allies to honor her bravery. Before everyone, he declares that Sera will be a worthy consort, highlighting her sacrifice, her strength, and the risk she was willing to take for others. The presents swear to protect her, kneeling in a sign of loyalty. Sera, moved and overwhelmed, realizes that Nyktos has not only gained the favor of his allies for her, but has also blocked any future escape. Still emotional, she understands that, for the first time, she has been recognized for who she is, not for her destiny. Chapter 9. Ether, Embers, and the New Hope of Salvation. Sera shares a tender moment with Jadis, Nyktos' Draken daughter, managing to feed her with a fork, something no one else had succeeded in doing. While they have breakfast, Nyktos reveals that his partner, Helena, was murdered by Kolis to punish his loyalty to Nyktos. The conversation evolves toward the theory that Sera's parents were twin hearts, united by a higher purpose, the birth of the bearer of the embers. Nyktos arrives and proposes a radical plan to extract Sera's embers to save her. If they survive the sacrifice, she could ascend as a goddess with the help of his blood. To find how to do it, they must seek the god Delphi through the pools of Divinesh. However, the journey cannot be undertaken until after the coronation. Although the risks are high, hope grows. For the first time, Sera glimpses a possibility of life beyond the sacrifice. A new future begins to take shape. Chapter 10. Revelations, Threats, and the Arrival of the Sumerians. Alone with Nyktos, Sera discovers that Helena was killed by Kolis's order, and that Nyktos, the first Draken, helped create the mortal race. They talk about the risks of the plan. If they extract the embers and she survives the sacrifice with Nyktos' blood, he would recover his destiny as primogenius of life. The rot would disappear, and Sera would live. They discuss the chosen, the right, and the purpose of the gods. For the first time, Sera feels hope for her future. Just then, Saiyan bursts in with alarming news. 100 Sumerians have arrived, warriors tied to Hanan, who are strengthened by either. Nyktos prepares to face them, leaving Sera under Saiyan's watch. Although she understands his reasons, Sera feels powerless, knowing the Sumerians could have come for her. Unable to remain still while others risk their lives, she defies Nyktos' orders and goes out determined to intervene. Tension rises on the eve of their coronation. Chapter 11. The Assault of the Sumerians and the Battle on the Rampart. Disobeying Nyktos, Sera climbs the rampart to witness the tense confrontation between him and Dorkan, leader of the Sumerians. These warriors arrive covered in umber stone armor and demand the surrender of Bele, but Nyktos refuses, accusing them of cowardice and disloyalty. When tension explodes, Sera fires a precise arrow that saves Rain, and the battle begins. She becomes key, attacking from the heights and neutralizing the Sumerians who summon dark mist. The embers in her chest react to every death. The fight intensifies when darkness climbs the walls and a Sumerian reaches her. In total blindness, Sera uses instinct to defend herself, recalling training with Holland. At the most critical moment, Nyktos arrives and protects her. Nyktos appears in Draken form, sweeping away the enemies with either. Finally, Nyktos executes Dorkan after his threat and confirms that the enemy has seen Sera. Chapter 12. Confessions, Wounds, and the Truth about Tavius. After the battle, Sera anxiously waits in Nyktos' office, escorted by Rain and Hector. Tensions between them intensify until Nyktos bursts in, furious over her disobedience. The argument erupts, but Sera defends her right to decide for herself. In a moment of calm, he cleans a wound and they share an intimate conversation about their bond and Sera's blood, which influences Nyktos' power and temperature. Memories of Tavius surface. The physical abuses, his unfounded hatred, and the punishment he imposed when Nyktos did not accept her. Sera's confession reveals a past full of pain, humiliation, and loneliness. Affected, Nyktos offers revenge, but she rejects it. Far from seeking compassion, Sera only desires dignity. He promises support if she ever needs it. Finally, he points out that the embers are altering her body, making her stronger, even immune to umber stone. Chapter 13. Desire Among Shadows and Nyktos' Confession. Sera returns to her chambers, where she discovers a lock on the balcony and a book on the table. After a solitary dinner, she feels uneasy and unveils intimate thoughts about Nyktos, his contained desire and the vulnerability she experiences. Distressed by the recent conversation about her past and the tension between them, she seeks solace in wine and ends up remembering her carnal encounter with him. In the darkness, she senses his presence. Shadows pulsate in the room and a sensual energy takes over the atmosphere. Sera gives in to her desire, sure that Nyktos watches her from the shadows. The night culminates in explosive and silent pleasure, after which she clearly perceives that he has been with her. Upon waking, doubt torments her. However, the emotional connection with Nyktos intensifies. The tension between them grows, revealing that despite their limits, the mutual desire is undeniable, uncontrollable, and dangerously shared. Chapter 14. Etz's message and Kolis's threat. Sera and Nyktos confront their feelings amid provocations, confessions, and contained desire. She offers herself only for pleasure, refusing to be treated as a consort empty of meaning. Just when Nyktos seems to give in to the sensual game, the unexpected arrival of Ats, the primogenius of concord and war, changes everything. Nyktos seats her on his lap to protect her, feigning possession with caresses loaded with intent. Ats studies Sera, recognizing her power and launching insinuations about her bond with the embers. With rising tension, both primogenii exchange veiled threats, until it reveals his true purpose. Kolis has sent him a message. He knows Nyktos has taken a consort and, as punishment, denies the right to crown her. The threat is clear and direct, and the danger imminent. Still, Sera does not yield. Her strength and determination cement her as a key piece in a war that has already begun in the shadows. Chapter 15. Kolis's threat and the masquerade. Atz's arrival turns the day of the coronation into a political nightmare. Kolis demands an audience before authorizing the union between Nyktos and Sera, which halts all immediate plans. Sera, confused by Nyktos's reaction, kisses him to distract him from the rage that consumes him. The emotional tension between them becomes contained desire, but the pain over Kolis's intervention weighs heavier. Nyktos and Ector burst in with news that confirms the fears. If Kolis suspects that Sera carries the embers of life, all will be lost. Ats, by not emotionally affecting Sera with his either, could have uncovered the truth. Nyktos plans to lie to Kolis to protect her, while Sera refuses to remain on the sidelines. An intense discussion reveals deep wounds and fears. Nyktos, while consoling her, calls her queen with conviction. The connection between Sera and Nyktos strengthens, but Kolis's threat looms like an inevitable shadow. Chapter 16. Shadows of duty and the power that never rests. Afflicted and exhausted, Sera channels her restlessness by training alone, imagining Nyktos as an adversary. Although tired from lack of practice, she keeps her mind focused to avoid thinking of Kolis or the sacrifice. Through conversations with Saion during breakfast, she discovers Ithos's past and Phanos's devastating punishment of the Kingdom of Fythe. Saion reveals that he and Rahar left that court as an act of rebellion. In an unexpected twist, he recounts how Nyktos saved them. He secretly took their souls to claim their loyalty before Kolis, thus preventing their execution. Nyktos's ingenuity not only saved lives, but also revealed his dangerous ability as primogenius. This tale deeply moves Sera, who faces the weight of her past and her failed mission to assassinate him. Although she can no longer change what she did, she understands that her hatred of herself is stronger than that of anyone around her. Chapter 17. Sera's training and a queen's demands. Frustrated by inaction, Sera storms into the guard's training and publicly challenges Nyktos with a sword. The confrontation turns into a tense and sensual game, in which she demonstrates her skill with weapons and words. Between strikes and jabs, Sera lays out her demands. An active role in decisions about Kolis, attending court meetings, visiting the Vale and Ezra, and never dining alone again. Each request, full of strength and a desire for autonomy, reaffirms her right to decide her own life. The tension with Nyktos builds, as does their attraction, culminating in a bold move when she presses a dagger to his throat. The guards cheer her victory, and Nyktos, far from angry, declares himself her future trainer. Sera exits gracefully, making it clear to all that she is no longer just a consort, but a woman who has claimed her place in the fire and the flame. Chapter 18. Nyktos's unexpected gesture in the bathing room. Sera receives a visit from Paxton, who insists on bringing Nyktos to heat her bathwater. The appearance of the shirtless primogenius, his hair wet, unsettles Sera, whose attraction to him becomes increasingly evident. Despite her objections, Nyktos enters her quarters and prepares a bath in her private chamber. The large, steaming tub becomes the setting for unexpected vulnerability. Nyktos offers her privacy, but his thoughtful gesture moves Sera, who feels seen and cared for. As she dozes off in the water, she awakens to Nyktos watching her. What begins as a tense conversation transforms into an intimate scene where both stop repressing their desire. Through teasing, intense glances, and indirect confessions, Sera confronts the truth. She desires Nyktos by choice, not destiny, and she decides to show him without fear of her vulnerability. Chapter 19. Unleashed desire and shared vulnerability. Nyktos and Sera give in to their long-contained desire with overwhelming intensity. After a bold tease, he admits his deepest thoughts, confessing how much he wants her and how he's fought against it. What begins as a power play turns into a scene of unrestrained passion. Sera kneels before him, guided by desire and their powerful connection. Nyktos responds with equal fervor, joining her in the bath to return the pleasure with visceral devotion. The moment culminates in a bite that, far from painful, brings her to a climax as intense as it is revealing. Afterwards, they remain together, wordless, in an intimacy that goes beyond physical contact. For the first time, both allow themselves to rest without fear, sharing emotional closeness never felt before. Nyktos, once cold and distant, whispers that she was never a ghost to him. Chapter 20. Trust, dialogue, and the beginning of a new alliance. Upon waking, Sera reflects on her place in Lethe and realizes how much she wants to be involved in Nyktos's world. Nyktos, seeing her asleep with Jadis, confirms that he senses peace in her, suggesting Nyktos does too. Later, Sera and Nyktos share an intimate dinner. She is surprised by the small gestures. 2 plates, companionship, and conversation. They talk about Lethe, Sera's past in Lasania, and forgiveness. He promises a visit to her half-sister Ezra and reveals that he will take her to the pools of Divanash to find a way to save her. He also confesses that he wants to protect her without controlling her. Sera, in turn, expresses her desire to be more than a bedroom consort. Both lower their guards and share painful truths, from Nyktos's fear of vulnerability to the possibility of redemption for souls that become darknesses. Chapter 21. Confessions, Morality, and the Fall of the Veil. During a confession-filled dinner, Sera and Nyktos explore the shadows within themselves. She admits to past killings and the absence of guilt for many. Nyktos, weighed by his own actions, confesses that he only tries to be good, though his primogenial essence corrupts him slowly. They talk about the nature of the primogenii who were once impartial, emotionless beings, until one fell in love. Since then, emotion has disrupted the absolute balance of their power. Nyktos affirms that the embers influence Sera's morality, but her humanity remains. Later, in her chambers, they give in to desire. He caresses her tenderly, memorizing her freckles like constellations, and adores her without bloodlust. Passion culminates in a deep encounter, free of urgency or anger, but filled with an emotional connection that transforms them. Nyktos whispers Liesa to her, marking a turning point in their relationship. Chapter 22. Reunion with Ezra and the Queen Mother's verdict. Sera wakes beside Nyktos and, after enjoying small comforts like her own clothes and shared breakfast, they journey to the mortal world. Crossing her lake and the dark elms, they arrive in Wayfair, where Ezra rules with empathy and firmness. Sera finds her personally receiving subjects and devising solutions to combat the rot. Ezra confirms that they've turned wastelands into homes and negotiated with Terra, earning respect as a leader. Sera tells her that the rot doesn't stem from dealing with Nyktos, but cannot reveal its true source. The encounter ends with emotion, laughter, and a promise to reunite. As they leave, Sera runs into her mother. Nyktos's disdain is immediate and brutal. Guilt over not protecting her daughter outweighs any words. Sera, resolute, feels relief. She no longer needs her mother's approval. She has found her strength and refuses to lose it. Chapter 23. The Hidden Pool and the Awakening of Their Connection. After returning from the mortal world and training with Bele, Sera and Nyktos share an intimate night that brings them closer emotionally. Amid caresses, confessions, and desire, she admits her discomfort at how much she resembles her mother, and Nyktos consoles her with words of deep understanding. The next morning, he leads her to a hidden passage that takes them to a secret pool he built with his allies. Surrounded by cells made from god bones, they discuss dual-life creatures, and he confesses he used to visit her lake because it was hers, because he was curious about her even before they met. In the pool, they begin training to control either, but the exercise becomes a game of physical tension and desire. Sera surrenders willingly, finding pleasure in that trust. The moment culminates in a passionate encounter that solidifies their bond. Chapter 24. Either training and shared vulnerability. Nyktos reveals that he used to watch Sera before they formally met, drawn not just to the ember but to her. He confesses that he visited her lake simply because it belonged to her, a gesture that deeply moves Sera. Back at the secret pool, Nyktos initiates an exercise to help her release either through intense emotions. Sera struggles against him, frustrated by her slowness compared to the Primogenius's movements. Amid attacks, teasing, and provocations, their emotional connection intensifies until, in a moment of chosen vulnerability, Sera submits to Nyktos's dominance. He realizes that by surrendering willingly, she feels safe. In a passion-filled scene, she acknowledges that she not only desires that control but fully trusts him. Their bodies unite in a connection as emotional as it is physical, and Nyktos promises she will always be safe with him, strengthening a bond that transcends desire. Chapter 25. Silent Confessions and the Desire for a Future of Her Own. After their union, Sera and Nyktos share a moment of calm in the pool. He pulls her out after seeing her submerged too long, and she confesses that holding her breath gives her the illusion of control. The conversation turns intimate when Nyktos shares that Lathan, a former ally, suffered anxiety attacks and learned to manage them. Sera is moved to hear that Nyktos considers her strong, not because of the embers, but for who she is. Throughout the day, she cares for Jadis and Reaver and receives an unexpected visit from Nyktos, who shows a rare change in his eyes. The moment sparks theories about a primogenial bond between Drakens and the embers, signaling that Sera's power is growing. As she reflects silently, Sera accepts a thought that transforms her. She wants a future with Nyktos, not as a pledged consort, but as his partner, his queen. For the first time, she desires something just for herself. Chapter 26. The Veil, the Embers, and the Truth in the Pools of Divanash. Sera rides with Nyktos toward the veil, knowing her ascension is near, but so is her death. He gifts her Gala, a powerful mare, as a symbol of support, and they share an intimate moment full of desire and tenderness. During the journey, Nyktos reveals his plan to weaken Kolis with the embers and avoid war. Sera realizes her existence might prevent catastrophe among the Primogenii. Upon arriving at the pillars, the power of the souls in the mist makes the embers inside her vibrate, and Nyktos confirms her spiritual sensitivity. 3 harbingers of the end observe them and bow before Sera, leaving Nyktos baffled. In an emotional impulse, she confesses her desire to be his consort, and he promises to wait for her. Finally, Sera crosses into the veil guided by Nyktos, as the siren's hypnotic song nearly pulls her toward the veil. The embers within her won't stop pulsing. Chapter 27. Lilacs, Secrets, and the Whereabouts of the God of Divination. Inside the veil, Sera is awed by the glowing, blooming landscape. Nyktos confronts her about her feelings for Nyktos, confirming that she needs him beyond duty. They talk about Nyktos's fear of love, inherited from Ithos's tragedy and Kolis's dark transformation. As they move forward, the siren's song threatens to drag Sera toward the veil, but Nyktos shields her. At a mountain with lilacs and mystical waters, they find the pools of divination. To activate them, Sera must offer a secret truth. She admits that she once tried to end her life. The water responds, revealing images of the god Delphi speaking with a young woman Sera recognizes as Kaylee Balfour, the princess of Ireland. The god of divination is at Cauldron Manor, giving them their first real lead in the plan. The secret revealed marks a new beginning for Sera and her will to live. Chapter 28. Corrupted Nymphs and Seraphena's Primogenial Power. On their way back from the veil, Sera and Nyktos talk about fate, Penelope's influence, and how Sera's choice to help Kaylee Balfour may have sparked a chain of events that led them to Delphi. While reflecting on the freedom of free will, the veil draws near again and the sirens sing once more. Sera shares an emotional moment with Nyktos, who offers unconditional support, but they are suddenly attacked by ancient nymphs corrupted by Kolis. Sera fights with her sword until, while protecting Gala, her mare, the embers in her chest release a surge of ether so powerful it obliterates a nymph. Nyktos is stunned. That kind of ether can only be wielded by the primogenius of life. Troubled, he remains silent on the way back. Sera, confused and afraid, wonders how her power can be so devastating, and whether she might have harmed Nyktos without knowing it. Chapter 29. Nyktos's Betrayal and the Awakening of the Power of Fury. Sera returns to the palace to tell Nyktos about the nymph attack, but finds him in his office with VCs on his lap, feeding on his neck and grinding against him. The sight shatters her. Every word he ever said echoes like betrayal. Liesa, worthy consort, strong, brave. Devastated, she flees to the secret pool beneath the castle, trying to drown the pain. But the agony turns to rage, and the power inside her erupts. The stone table where she once shared intimacy with Nyktos turns to ash. The water thrashes, and the palace trembles. Roots rise from the ground, binding her. Unable to breathe, she feels everything slipping away. Nyktos arrives and finds her on the brink of destruction. He tries to calm her, but only manages to contain her by using his primogenial voice to command her to sleep. With that word, Sera falls into a deep slumber, her body and soul pushed to the edge of collapse. Chapter 30. Stasis, Revelations, and the Consort's Resolve. Sera awakens 3 days later in Nyktos's room, confused and ashamed. Rain and Bele explain that she entered stasis, an extreme state during the sacrifice. The roots that emerged from the ground weren't trying to harm her. They were protecting her. Ashamed for losing control, she recalls that Nyktos used coercion to put her to sleep, a wound that cuts deep. Though she understands why, she feels her will was taken. She learns that Nyktos never left her side, watching over her the entire time. Yet the betrayal with Vises still lingers. She decides to block her emotions, locking them in a mental void, and focus on survival. She must become his consort, not for love, but as strategy. She needs his protection to face Kolis and survive the embers. Despite the pain, she makes a choice. She can't afford to feel. She'll give up her heart, her desire, her emotions, until it's all over. Only then will she allow herself the freedom she longs for. Chapter 31. Rupture and the Unbreakable Oath. After waking from stasis, Sera speaks with Bele and learns that Vises has fed from Nyktos for over a year, despite supporting Kolis and the distrust she causes. The revelation confirms that what she saw wasn't a one-time event and reopens the wound. Nyktos arrives, asks to speak alone, and apologizes for the coercion he used to stop her, also denying that there was sex. Sera explains what she witnessed, admits it hurt her, and acknowledges her mistake in not setting boundaries. Nyktos insists the situation is complex and that he never wanted anyone else, but avoids giving details. Sera ends their intimate agreement, agrees to consecration in name only, and demands freedom after the embers are extracted. Nyktos accepts the arrangement as an unbreakable oath. They part, separated by a decision that chills their bond and preserves the tension. Chapter 32. Kolis' Summons and the Truth about Sotoria. The next day, Sera maintains a hollow calm and handles practical matters with Nyktos. They agree to travel to Ireland together, monitor a Draken from KYN, and decide to delay the trip. Nyktos' mark burns and Kolis summons them to Dalos, forcing them to respond before extracting the embers. During council, they agree to humiliating concessions to avoid suspicion, and Sera demands to go immediately. Ios prepares her and privately reveals the truth. Sera is Kolis' Greeka and carries the soul of Sotoria, created as a weapon alongside the embers. Ios recounts her captivity in Dalos, systematic cruelty, the false protection of favorites, and the violence that followed their fall. She warns that Kolis has no cardia and cannot love. Sera gives up trying to kill him and chooses to survive, accepting the journey with restrained fear. She decides to shield her heart and emotions to face the hostile court. Chapter 33. Dalos, the City of the Dead. Before leaving, Nyktos and Sera agree to pretend distance while in Dalos and face the dilemma of a possible war if Kolis identifies her as Sotoria. Sera begs him not to intervene, hoping to avoid destruction, and Nyktos admits his fear of becoming what he hates. They say goodbye to Jades and agree to answer the summons. Through shadow walking, they reach Dalos' gates, surrounded by trees created by Ios. The City of Diamonds emerges silently, watched by statues and golden guards. Crossing the inner rampart, horror unfolds. Hanged bodies, veils turned into shrouds, and moans filling Kor's courtyard. The rot taints the air, confirming the city's name. Faced with the suffering, the embers inside Sera react violently, drawn to the agonizing life. The power grows out of control, signaling immediate danger at the heart of Kolis' domain. No hope of salvation is in sight. Chapter 34. The False King, a Ripped-Out Heart, and the Trial by Fire. Inside Sewer Palace, Kolis' power overwhelms Sera, sending the embers spiraling. Nyktos calms her with a passionate kiss that tames the ether. The moment is interrupted by the arrival of Ats and the mysterious god Disses, who shows contempt for Sera. Nyktos pierces him with his hand, ripping out his heart to assert dominance. But something is wrong. Disses had no soul. Dark suspicions arise. With Ats, they reach the atrium, where Hanan confronts and threatens Sera, provoking Nyktos' lethal wrath. Tension spikes with Kolis' arrival. His golden ether, beautiful but corrupted, floods the hall. Kolis demands to see Sera and uses coercion. Though he doesn't recognize her as Sotoria, he's intrigued by her power. Kolis grants approval for the coronation, but demands a test. The price for dishonor must be paid in blood. The sentence is set. Chapter 35. The Draken's Sacrifice and the Ancestral Voice of Sotoria. Kolis decrees that Sera must kill a young Draken to earn her right to become consort. Nyktos tries to stop it, but the false king threatens to kill her. The boy, resigned, accepts his fate. Kolis' essence is bright and golden, stained with a gray corruption reminiscent of the rot. Shattered inside, Sera blocks her emotions as she once did in Lasania. But as she holds the dagger, an ancient presence awakens within her. Sotoria, a powerful soul, cries for justice and vengeance. The scream, "Mine!" echoes in her mind as the spirit fuses with her being. The choice is made. Sera raises the dagger, and in executing the sacrifice, it is not just her. It's the collective memory of all the lives tied to that ancestral fury. The price is paid in blood, and Kolis is satisfied, unaware that he has awakened something he will no longer be able to control. Chapter 36. The Price Paid and the Draken's Rebirth. After killing the young Draken, Sera feels something inside her has broken. Though Kolis declares her worthy, the embers of life burn in her chest as if in protest. They leave the palace knowing Kolis hasn't recognized her as Sotoria, but certain she has created life. Driven by pain and the presence within her, Sera demands that Nyktos take her to Vathi to try reviving the Draken. Though hesitant, Nyktos agrees. At Atz's court, Sera insists, convinced her power can right the injustice. She summons the embers, unleashes the ether, and the Draken returns to life. His name is Thad. The act stuns everyone. Atz vows to keep the secret, aware of the risk. But now, the embers have proven that Sera is more than just a consort. She is life itself. Chapter 37. Blood Tears, a Divided Soul, and the Lingering Threat. Back at the palace, Sera searches for solace after reviving Thad. She walks with Reaver, weighed by guilt, sadness, and questions about her morality. Her tears fall red. She weeps like the Primogenii. In an unexpectedly quiet night, she dines with Bele and Ios while Nyktos faces the darknesses in Lethe. A conversation with Ector about these unsettling beings leaves her pensive. In her chambers, the ember's vibration alerts her. She senses a presence, and her instinct is right. Vises violently bursts in. The goddess attacks Ector, throws him across the room, and cruelly threatens Sera. Her true motive is clear. Vises suspects the truth. She senses that Sera is a primogenia and can't bear it. She tries to intimidate her, but Sera defends herself. The confrontation ends with Reaver wounded and Sera stabbing Vises in the eye. The secret is out. Chapter 38. Sera's Revelation and Nyktos' Return. Bele storms in just as Vises is about to kill Sera. Reaver is gravely injured but still alive. Vises confirms her suspicions. Sera isn't just Nyktos' consort, but a primogenia with power over life. Aware of the danger, Sera makes a decision. She uses the embers to save Reaver. The power responds to her will, and the Draken awakens. Horrified, Vises tries to destroy them both. In the chaos, Bele fights but is overwhelmed. Then Nyktos arrives. His fury shakes the palace. The Primogenius of Death channels his power like never before and annihilates Vises with pure ether. He orders her imprisonment. Sera confesses everything, what she felt, what she discovered, and Nyktos admits he no longer doubts. Sera is not Sotoria. She has two souls. At the end, wounded and vulnerable, she drinks his blood to heal. Their connection deepens, and shared desire consumes them. Chapter 39. The blood price and Rain's revealed truth. Sera tends to Reaver after Vises' attack, but her mind replays what the goddess hinted, that Nyktos would do anything for her. When Nyktos arrives, they share an intimate conversation where Sera confirms their moments have been by choice. He admits Vises is now in stasis and cannot be freed. Curious about Nyktos' bond with Vises, Sera suspects there's more. She summons Rain and confronts him. She wants to know what Nyktos sacrificed to protect her. Pressed, Rain confesses that Nyktos secretly struck a deal with Vises, allowing her to feed on his blood whenever she wanted in exchange for keeping Sera's existence secret. The truth hits Sera like betrayal. Rage stirs the embers, shaking the palace, but she holds back. Still, she quietly swears that consort or not, primogenia or not, she will kill Vises for what she did. Chapter 40. Sera's coronation and the certainty of love for Ash. Sera tries to leave to confront Vises, but Rain stops her. He reveals that once Nyktos has the embers and ascends, he can replace any fallen primogenius, including Vises. The desire for vengeance mixes with sadness and love, as Sera realizes all Nyktos has endured to protect her. Even before they met, she learns only Ector, Rain, and Nyktos knew of the deal. When she asks if Nyktos loves her, Rain replies she's already been his queen. On the way to her coronation, the weight of her feelings overwhelms her. In the carriage, she recalls every gesture, every sacrifice, and accepts that she loves him. Upon arrival, all of Lethe kneels before her, and she finally sees Ash. He calls her Liessa, soothes her with a whisper, and stands beside her with pride. Sera declares she wants to be his consort, not out of duty, but by choice. She walks to the altar knowing she does not love Nyktos. She loves Ash. Chapter 41. The coronation and the mark of impossible bonds. Sera walks through the Colosseum as thousands of eyes fall upon her. Dressed in a shimmering gown, she moves forward hand in hand with Ash toward the dais, where two thrones and a crown of umbra stone adorned with moons and diamonds await. In a surprising gesture, Ash kneels before her and places the crown on her head, sparking murmurs among those present. Ats watches with amusement, but something astonishing happens. A white and silver light envelopes their joined hands, and golden spirals mark their palms. They've been blessed by the Eri, or perhaps by Sera's embers. The imprint is a sacred union unseen for centuries. Nyktos arrives in Draken form, landing before the throne. Kiela, the primogenia of rebirth, approaches and examines the mark, her gaze revealing she knows the truth about Sotoria's soul. The consecration is complete, but its impact has only just begun. Chapter 42. Sealed bonds and the truth about Ash's sacrifice. After the coronation, Sera and Ash receive cheers and blessings from gods and mortals alike. In the carriage ride back, intimacy grows between them. Physical contact turns into overwhelming desire, and Sera finally gives herself to Ash, claiming him completely. Their bond is sealed not just with their bodies, but with unspoken confessions. Back at the palace, Sera asks to sleep with him. In Ash's chambers, they share drinks, words, and memories. The conversation leads to Ash's secret agreement with Vises, 3 years of being her blood source in exchange for keeping Sera safe. She comforts him, cleans his wounded hand after he breaks a glass, and declares she will kill Vises if he doesn't. Ash confesses how that choice scarred his soul. They embrace, and though much remains unsaid, the love between them can no longer be denied. Now there is only us. Chapter 43. Surrender, blood, and the embrace of desire. Sera wakes in Ash's bed after the coronation, enveloped in desire, love, and a deepening physical bond. He struggles with his impulses to feed, still emotionally marked by what it meant during his deal with Vises. But Sera, understanding his need, offers her blood without fear. She urges him to take it, and in total surrender he does. The bite is fierce and ignites a wild passion. Ash thrusts into her with intensity as he drinks from her, taking control in a raw, intimate, and deeply necessary moment for them both. Sera stays still, respecting his boundaries, letting him take what he needs. The shared pleasure consumes them. In the end, Ash holds her close and falls asleep by her side, unspoken words lingering in the air. The next day, they travel together to Cauldron Manor in search of the god Delphi, where they are received with awe and fear. Chapter 44. The Star, the Forbidden Diamond, and the Deadly Sentence. At Cauldron Manor, Sera and Ash are guided by Kolis to Delphi, an eccentric god with unfathomable eyes and ancient knowledge. He reveals that the Aerie created a gem called the Star, with the power to transfer embers between primogenii, born in the depths of the eternal hills. Though Kolis now possesses the diamond, Delphi explains that extracting Sera's embers doesn't require the star. Ash only needs to feed on her until the last drop of blood. Then he would ascend as the primogenius of life, but Sera would die. The news devastates Ash, who reacts with fury and slams Delphi into a bookshelf. Only Sera's intervention saves the god. In his delirium, Delphi mutters strange words about 2 moons, a silver beast, and hope. The revelation is crushing. There is no alternative without sacrifice. Sera must die for Ash to fulfill his destiny and save the worlds from the rot. Chapter 45. The Decision, Lost Love, and a Promise Beneath the Pines. Still reeling from Delphi's truth, Sera and Ash leave Cauldron Manor in heavy silence. In the forest, Sera confronts him. She knew that removing the embers would mean her death, but Ash never admitted it. He confesses he always suspected, but clung to hope for another way. Sera asks him to accept the inevitable. She must die for him to ascend and save the realms. Ash refuses, shattered by the thought of losing her. But Sera reminds him that she matters too, and that many lives depend on her sacrifice. They confess their love amid tears, desire, and despair. They make love once more, in the woods, in a moment filled with passion and sorrow. Afterward, Sera makes one final request. When the time comes, take her to her lake. That's where she wants to die. Ash, through aching whispers, promises he will. Chapter 46. The Massacre, Ash's Fury, and Sera's Abduction. After returning to the Shadowlands, Sera and Ash are ambushed by dark drakens and Dakais. Alarms erupt as they learn that Kyn has betrayed them, leading a brutal assault. Amid fire and chaos, Saiyan reveals the unthinkable. Ios and Ector have been captured and savagely killed. Sera tries to revive them, bringing Ios back, but Ector's revival fails as Dakais devour him. In the heart of battle, the embers overflow and Sera unleashes a wave of destruction, annihilating enemies. Exhausted and bleeding, she attempts to help Ash as he fights Devon and the invading army. The battle escalates, Orphine falls, and Sumerians storm the rampart. Amid the chaos, Sera is captured by Ats and delivered to Kolis. To save everyone, she breaks her protection spell and surrenders. She vanishes into smoke and shadows, with war erupting in her wake. Chapter 47. Awakening in the Golden Cage and the Full Prophecy Revealed. Sera awakens shackled and caged, imprisoned by Kolis in a palace bathed in gold. Callum, the returned who once conspired with her mother in the mortal realm, reveals that Kolis knew from her birth that she held the primogenial embers. The false king always knew she was the key to his ascension. Kolis appears and recites the full prophecy. Sera is the giver of life and bearer of 2 crowns, destined to become the vessel of absolute power. His plan is to consume the embers and become the primogenius of blood and ash, a fusion of life and death. As he bites her to steal her power, Sera, in agony, speaks a shocking truth. She is Sotoria reborn. The confession stuns him. Ats intervenes and Kolis, shaken by the thought of repeating his ancient crime, lets her go. In the distance, Sera sees a silver wolf beneath the moon. Ash has come for her. The battle is not over yet. And that's the end of A Light in the Flame, a story filled with impossible choices, betrayal, and powerful sacrifices. Thanks for staying until the end. If you enjoyed this summary, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it with fellow fantasy fans. Now tell me in the comments, do you think Sera should sacrifice herself to save the world? Or should she fight to change her fate?